everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling the 5-second rule popularized by Mel Robbins in her book of the same name.
Sounds exciting.
It is. I feel like we all get stuck in those moments, when you want to do something. But procrastination hits.
Right.
And self-doubt, and you just let opportunities slip by.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So today we're going to explore the 5-second rule as like this tool, this secret weapon to break those patterns and build some serious courage.
Love it.
And to help us out, we've got our expert here to break down all the science and psychology behind this simple but powerful idea.
Happy to be here.
So let's jump right in. What is the 5-second rule at its core? And why should we even care about it?
Well, the 5-second rule, it's really about simplicity. It's about interrupting that negative thought spiral. You know when you get stuck?
Yeah.
And you just overthink everything.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, so the rule is about taking action by counting down from 5 to 1. It's like hitting the reset button on your brain.
So it's like you're short-circuiting that doubt before it even has a chance to take hold.
Exactly. And this ties into a really fascinating idea called locus of control.
Oh, okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's that feeling of being in control of your choices. The 5-second rule, it helps you shift from like a passive things are happening to me to I am the one making things happen.
Makes sense. Like you're not just a passenger in your own life anymore. You're taking the wheel.
Exactly.
So then how does this all connect to courage, like real life courage?
That's a great question.
I know Mel Robbins uses Rosa Parks as an example in her book, but I'd love to kind of dig into that a little more.
Yeah, so we often think of people like Rosa Parks as these almost superhuman figures. But the reality is they're ordinary people who made courageous choices.
Yeah, they're just like us.
Right. Think about Rosa Parks on that bus. I mean, she was tired, facing potential backlash. But in those 5 seconds, she made a decision that shifted history. She didn't wait for the perfect moment or for someone else to do something.
Yeah. It makes you think, could the 5-second rule have actually played a part in her decision? I mean, obviously we don't know for sure, but...
Yeah, it's impossible to know for sure, but the principle absolutely rings true. When we hesitate, we give fear and doubt space to take control. But when we act decisively, even when we're uncertain, we tap into this wellspring of courage we might not even know we have.
Wow, that's powerful. So it's more about seizing the moment rather than waiting for, like, perfect conditions.
Absolutely. You know, even Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, he almost hesitated to start the company.
Really?
Yeah. Or E.L. James, the author of 50 Shades of Grey. She didn't wait for a traditional publishing deal. She self-published and created this huge success story.
That's pretty inspiring. So sometimes the most courageous act is simply to start, even if you don't feel completely ready.
Exactly.
But then what about those times when, like, our emotions get in the way? Logic says go for it, but fear or anxiety holds us back. How can the 5-second rule help us navigate that?
Well, that's where the whole science of decision-making gets really interesting. Research, especially work by Antonio Damasio, suggests that emotions play a way bigger role in our choices than we often realize.
So we're not as rational as we think we are.
Not always. Damasio, he studied patients with brain damage that impacted their emotional processing, and they had trouble making even basic decisions. It's like our feelings are the fuel and logic is just trying to steer the car.
Whoa. Okay, I'm following.
So the 5-second rule is like this bridge between those logical goals you have and actually taking action. That countdown, it creates a tiny window to override those emotional impulses and move towards what you actually want.
Okay, but isn't that just tricking yourself? How can that lead to any real change?
It's a form of what we call psychological intervention, meaning you change your behavior and then your feelings can follow. It might seem counterintuitive, but think about it. Like forcing yourself to smile, even when you feel down, can actually lift your mood. It's that fake it till you make it idea, but backed by science. Even Aristotle, he had this idea of do good, be good.
Right. Okay, I'm starting to get it. But then there's procrastination. Is it always a bad thing? I mean, everyone does it.
You're right. Procrastination is, it's more complex than we give it credit for. Sometimes it's harmless, but other times it can have some pretty serious consequences.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Psychologist Timothy Pitchell, he suggests that procrastination is often this stress response, like a way to seek that instant gratification to avoid something unpleasant, like hitting the snooze button on your responsibilities.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely done that.
So with a 5-second rule, it's about taking that control back. The moment you feel the urge to procrastinate, start the countdown. It disrupts the pattern and gives you a chance to choose something more productive.
So it's about wrestling that control back from like your inner saboteur and getting yourself into action mode.
Exactly. And it's not just for tackling those big projects. It could be as simple as, I don't know, getting out of bed when your alarm goes off, or finally making that phone call you've been putting off.
Yeah, that makes sense. Little things can feel so hard sometimes.
Right. And each time you use the 5-second rule, you're reinforcing a habit of action
Yeah.
and self-empowerment.
That's powerful stuff. So this little rule, it can impact so many parts of our lives, from conquering those big fears to just getting through those everyday challenges.
But that's what I love about the 5-second rule. It gives you like this practical way to interrupt all that worry and negativity,
Yeah.
even just for a moment,
Yeah.
that countdown and asking yourself those gratitude questions. It helps you recenter, shift your perspective a little.
So it's like a mental reset button to get out of those spiraling thoughts.
Exactly. And when you use the 5-second rule consistently, in those moments, you're kind of training your brain to look for the good stuff, even when things are tough, like building a mental muscle for resilience and positivity.
I love that. That reminds me of something else Mel Robbins talks about. She says the 5-second rule helps us tap into our courage to make those bold moves we might normally hesitate on.
Right. That's a key part of it. We tend to put these figures like, I don't know, Rosa Parks or Martin Luther King Jr. up on this pedestal and think, well, I could never do that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the 5-second rule, it reminds us that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting despite fear. It's that split-second decision to push through the discomfort and do what needs to be done.
Okay, I get that. But do you think someone like Rosa Parks, was she consciously using something like the 5-second rule, or was it more instinctual?
It's hard to say,
Yeah.
but we do know that even the most courageous people, they feel self-doubt. They feel uncertainty. What sets them apart is their willingness to act according to their values, even when it's scary. And the 5-second rule, it can be that bridge between what we want to do and actually doing it.
It's wild to think that this simple technique could have such a huge impact. So it's not about waiting for the fear to go away. It's more about acting in spite of it.
Exactly. Think about Steve Wozniak, When he hesitated to co-found Apple, he had those doubts. He had those fears. But he took that leap. Imagine if he hadn't. All those innovations we have today, they might not exist.
It's true. That's a good point. Okay, so when we feel frozen by fear, we can use the 5-second rule to break out of that pattern and move forward, almost like a mental springboard into action.
Exactly. It's like we're hacking our own thoughts and creating new habits of courage, of being decisive. The more we practice, the more we make it easier to choose action over inaction.
And it's not just about those massive life decisions either, right? Mel Robbins talks about using it for those everyday moments too, like speaking up at work, starting a creative project, even just getting out of bed some morning.
It's true. It's about noticing those times when fear or hesitation pops up and using that countdown as a way to move past it, giving yourself permission to act, even if you don't feel totally ready or confident yet.
I love that. It's like a 5-second pep talk.
Exactly. And the best part is it's a pep talk you give yourself. You're not relying on anyone else for motivation. You're tapping into your own strength, your own resilience.
Okay, I want to shift gears a bit. What about the idea that the 5-second rule can lead to like a more fulfilling life? I mean, is that really possible? Can something so simple have that much impact?
It goes deeper than just hitting goals or getting over fears. The 5-second rule, it's really about possibility, about feeling empowered. When you consistently choose to act and push yourself outside your comfort zone, you're telling yourself this powerful message: I can create the life I want.
Yeah, so it's like going from passive observer to active creator. You're shaping your own life, one 5-second decision at a time.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective can impact your whole life: relationships, work, your creative side, even your sense of purpose. When you tap into your courage and use this 5-second rule, you're opening up so many possibilities. Possibilities that might have felt totally out of reach before.
Makes you think about how many amazing experiences and opportunities we miss just because we let those 5 seconds go by and don't do anything.
I think that's spot on. It's easy to get caught up in what if and all those fears, but those 5 seconds, they can be a doorway to something truly amazing. Choosing action over hesitation opens you up to adventures, new connections. You can grow in ways you never imagined. That's what makes this rule so much more than a simple productivity trick. It's a path to a life that's more authentic, more meaningful. It's exciting stuff, right? We've talked about facing those fears, tackling procrastination, even turning anxiety into like positive energy. But the real magic, it happens when you use this in your everyday life.
Okay, but how? How do you even begin? Like, how do you make this a real habit instead of just the cool concept?
That's the key, right? I think the best way, is to start by figuring out those specific areas where you get stuck. You know those moments when you know what you should do, but something's holding you back?
Yeah, like that inner battle between what you want to do and what feels easier, more comfortable.
Exactly. That's when the 5-second rule becomes your secret weapon. As soon as you feel that hesitation, that's your cue. Don't overthink it. Just count down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move.
So simple, yet so powerful. It's like giving yourself that little push to actually do the thing, not just think about it.
And here's the cool part. The more you do this, you're literally rewiring your brain.
Really?
Yeah. You're creating pathways that make it easier and easier to choose courage over comfort, action over procrastination. You can get closer and closer to the life you really want.
Whoa. Okay, so we're changing our brains just by using this rule.
You got it. Our brains are amazing. They change based on what we do. So by using the 5-second rule, you're making those pathways for action and courage stronger. Like upgrading your mental operating system.
Love that. Going from hesitation mode to go-getter mode. But let's be honest, it's not about being perfect, right? We're all going to have days when we hit snooze or just can't find the courage to speak up.
Absolutely. It's not about being superhuman. It's about progress, not perfection. You're going to stumble sometimes. We all do. It's being kind to yourself, remembering you're human, and just keep practicing. Keep that 5-second rule handy. Use it to get back on track.
So it's a reminder. We always have a choice, a chance to reset.
Exactly. And those times when you mess up, they can teach you too. You can learn what triggers that hesitation and how to use the 5-second rule even better next time.
So it's all part of the process, mess ups and all. As we wrap up our deep dive here, what's one last thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Remember this. You have the power to choose. Every moment is a chance to stay stuck or step forward. The 5-second rule, it's a tool to help you make that choice, to close that gap between where you are and where you want to be.